we know that work is at the very center of our society. From the time we are born, we depend on others for caring, for all kinds of things. Parents always work. They even sleep very little. Sleepless nights are a story of every couple, every mother, every father, when their kids are small. And fathers, men, are not the only ones to work. I remember when I was small, I saw people filling forms. What is your job? Or what is your occupation? And my mother used to say, not working, which was ridiculous because we were 7 and she was always working, but she was not working with paid work. She was at home. Now, people are calling that homemaking. That is a bit better. Everybody is working. And everyone's work is important. It's when people go on strike that you discover that those people that are, taking the beans, the bean men as they call them, are very important. If they don't take your bin away, then rubbish starts piling high and disease is threatened. Work is important. And there is a word for work at home, is to be house proud. People use that to say how proud they are when they have beautified and organized and made their home so pleasant to stay in and to come in. Men are very, very passionate with work. At such is that passion that when they are made redundant or lose their job for any reason, many of them get depressed, discouraged. It is like their worth has been taken away. People work hard to earn their living and to give an example of that to their children, to be busy. And we see in the Bible examples of that. In particular, our Moses, that was also a counselor in the church, was busy, day in, day out, taking care of people, giving them advice. Paul, who was a full-time preacher, teacher, and missionary, also wrote letters, many of them. He traveled, and yet, in several places in his letters, he tells people how he has never relied on the church money for his work, because he was a tent maker, which was a very important profession at the time in the Middle East. He was a tent maker, and he produced tents, sewed them, sold them. So he gave example of work. And many of our pastors today are also working while taking care of the church. Why is it that people are so passionate about work? Even though you may be in a work that you don't like, but at least you have an idea of the one you would like to do. It's because God planned it from the very beginning. In the beginning of Genesis, He created man and woman and said, be busy, be fruitful. And this is not being fruitful only in producing children, although this is at the heart of God's plan. Because if you get old without having had any children, nobody will succeed you. And by your family name will disappear. Yeah. But that fruitfulness is not just that. It is doing something that produces a fruit. Just like you plant an apple tree and you expect that to give apples at a point. Just like we planted one in our garden this year, hoping for apples in 3 or 4 years. So fruitfulness is also bringing something out. For example, you study and you expect to get a certificate, a diploma, a degree out of your study, or a promotion or something that will be the fruit of your labor. And God promised, by the way, that the fruit of your labor will not be in vain, never. But on the contrary, the curse of God is exemplified by barrenness. And in many African societies today, being barren remains a very big curse. It breaks marriages, it breaks societies. And we know that some people decide to be barren, but usually they are trying everything when they want a child to get that child. And when they cannot, they go to their doctor and expect medical science to help them get that precious child that they desire. Why is it that most people desire a child when they are in a relationship? It's because it is in our DNA. It is planned from the beginning. So I want to encourage you, don't follow trends today. Be fruitful. You look at the West. Western societies are on the way to death. How do we know that? They encourage barrenness with their trans agenda. Immediately, somebody says he wants to change what they call gender. The first thing they get is medical stuff, medicine that makes them barren. And this is irreversible. Know it. So actually, people kill fruitfulness in the womb, even before you start. We see that pesticides are having also something in them that has been recorded and discovered by scientists to produce barrenness after a while. Then people now encourage their fellow human beings to kill themselves. They make life impossible and people commit suicide. And then when people decide, looking at you, that your way of life is not enjoyable enough, how do they know? Huh? And then they decide you are not worth living. Hitler killed people before their time. Now our societies do that by euthanasia. Even little children in Belgium are being euthanized. We are on the way to death. Loss, disease, defeat, calamity. All this is showing that we are under a curse. If you see the Bible, it's recorded in several places that if you follow your DNA, what God has planned you for, it will be well with you and you'll be fruitful. It's just like I plant that apple tree and I spray it with pesticides 2 times a day to never produce apples. I've decided to kill it. And that's what we do when we are against God. And it is even recorded in God's word that not only that you will be experiencing loss, defeat, calamity, disease, everything, even diseases that are not yet discovered, not yet written, either in the Bible or anywhere else, will be your portion. And we know that now. We have had it's coming out of nowhere, no matter what people say, they don't know. And the last pandemic was also an occasion for sober reflection. So I want to encourage you, follow your DNA plan. Don't disobey. For example, you need 8 hours sleep average. If you decide not to sleep, you will not stay 1 week alive. The same way we need water to be alive. If you don't drink for several days, you become dehydrated, and then from there you die. The same if you don't eat. You can survive to a point without food. But if you add no food and no water, that's it for you. Be fruitful. And if you don't know how to be fruitful, go to the Creator, the one that made your DNA, and he will tell you. Bless you.